Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tulo Hoyane. This morning I want to take you back to the factual findings of the Free State High Court on the 8th of August. That is almost a month ago. You'll recall on that day, that was the day on which the Free State High Court dismissed the defamation case of General Shadrach SIBIYA that he had brought against the well-known whistleblower Patricia Mashale. There were some factual findings which were made in that decision. The case was presided over by Justice Dafu, and among some of the factual findings of the court were to the effect that General Shadrach SIBIYA, these were allegations that were made by Patricia Mashale, that General SIBIYA had in fact interfered with the investigation of the MEYIWA trial, and that interference took the following form. Upon arriving at the scene, he was later joined by Warrant Officer Makubu. As Makubu's senior, he had ordered Makubu to have the crime scene cleaned up. And ordinarily, if that was a lawful instruction, Makubu, as his junior, should have complied with that instruction to have the crime scene cleaned up. But Warrant Officer Makubu would have none of that. And so it was that the two dockets were opened. Now, this is a factual finding of the Free State High Court. It is not conjecture, it is not social media reports circulating all over the place. These are the factual findings of a court of law. Now let us go back and recall that Docket 636, the docket that says there were intruders in that house, was opened in 2014, shortly after the murder of Senzo MEYIWA. We now know, as a matter of record, it is on record before the Pretoria High Court, that there were differences. Shortly after Senzo MEYIWA was killed, there were differences between the police as to what had really transpired there. One set of policemen took the view that there had been intruders into that house, and another set of policemen took the view that there had been no intruders into that house. Warrant Officer Makubu belongs to that group of investigators. These were all investigators coming out of the Phosphorus police station, investigating one incident, the killing of Senzo MEYIWA. So after these differences arose about what had actually transpired there on that fateful day, Warrant Officer Makubu emerged as one of those investigators, or actually became the lead investigator of the narrative that there had been no intruders into that house. It took 5 years, from 2014 to 2019, before another docket 375 was opened, because these differences had not been resolved. They had simply not been resolved, and Warrant Officer Makubu went ahead and opened docket 375. Now, what was the focus of docket 375? After Warrant Officer Makubu had been ordered some 5 years back by General Shadrach SIBIYA to have the crime scene cleaned up, and this was very This was clearly an illegal instruction because the police were there in the first place to investigate a murder. And one of the first things that should have happened there was to have the crime scene preserved so that a proper investigation could then get underway. So it was clearly an illegal instruction. And Makubu, Warrant Officer Makubu, felt under no professional obligation to carry out such an instruction. But it would appear that shortly thereafter, after the refusal of Makubu to clean up the crime scene, he was then ordered off the crime scene by General Shadrach SIBIYA. And it would appear also that he complied with that instruction and left the crime scene. But be that as it may, Makubu was never convinced that there had been intruders into that house. He had always been of the view that it was wrong not to have preserved and protected the crime scene. It was also wrong that no focus had been made on the people inside the house, the primary suspects, the last people to have been seen with Senator MEYIWA alive. And focus was turned away from the house simply on the explanation of the people who were in the house, who were themselves the first suspects. So Warrant Officer Makubu in 2019, 5 years later, so relentless was his pursuit for the truth that 5 years later, he was still determined to get to the bottom of what had transpired on the 26th of October 2014 in the Kumalo house. He then opened Docket 375. The focus and thrust of Docket 375 is on General Shadrach SIBIYA, among other people. Docket 375 was opened at the Vosloorus police station and must still be at the Vosloorus police station unless it has been seized. You know, there's been that seizure of 121 case dockets from the political killings task team. And one can only hope that Docket 375 has not been seized by General Shadrach SIBIYA from the Vosloorus police station. Now, the essence of that docket was to charge General Shadrach SIBIYA with defeating the ends of justice, in that he had ordered the crime scene cleaned up. Because subsequent developments, Musia, the first prosecution witness, under cross-examination, considered that the crime scene had been tampered with. So, as a matter of fact, after the departure from the crime scene of Warrant Officer Makubu, the crime scene was essentially cleaned up. There was that lady neighbor, who came into the house and cleaned up the house. So the scene was tampered with. The scene was certainly tampered with. That is why in 2019, Warrant Officer Makubu then took the decision to charge General Shadrach SIBIYA with the crime of defeating the ends of justice, because that is what it was. Nothing more and nothing less. So that is how Docket 375 came into existence. The docket that says there were no intruders into that house, and among other things, charges General Shadrach SIBIYA with the crime of defeating the ends of justice. So there you have it. This has been, now carries the stamp of authority of the Free State High Court in that Mashali defamation case. We also know that is the 375. The 375 exists as a matter of fact, although Balui and Gininda have since laid down its significance to say that it simply has no relevance in the sense of MEYIWA trial. But this is the situation. Those are the facts behind Docket 375 and the role that General SIBIYA played in cleaning up the crime scene and thus tampering with the crime scene. Having said that, let me thank you for watching this video. Let me thank you for all the likes and subscriptions that I'm seeing. We are now well over the 10,000 subscriber mark. Let us go for 20,000. I've always said, and I will say it again, with you, everything is possible. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful, wonderful start to the week.